You're watching FootballFan.zone, insight from the inside. One debate that always rages, rears its ugly head almost on a weekly basis in the Premier League and across Europe is diving. Now, I happen to think diving is part of the game. I think here in England, we have a very strange and warped way of looking at it. It's part of the game, and to win a penalty and a free kick in and around the box, for me, is clever forward play.
Yeah, you're going to get clapped by your own fans. You're going to get booed through a few games wherever you travel. The away fans are going to boo you for diving. I know I dived once, but...
Kenny Sansom, hold on. Kenny Sansom dived?
It's a true story.
I'd love to see a video of this.
I was playing for Everton. We were 2-0 down. I was playing against Aston Villa at Villa Park. 2-0 down. One of the goals was my fault. So I thought I've got to make up for it. So I ran in the box. Funny enough, it was Ray Houghton. He tackled me. He was nowhere near me. And I thought, and I dived. And the referee gave a penalty. we lost 2-1, so it didn't matter. But the referee used to referee Arsenal's training, first team against reserve matches. So he'd watch me in training. He was an Arsenal fan. Tony Ward, his name was. And he gave the penalty. I see him 5 years later. He said, "You done me. Kenny Sansom never cheats." That's why he gave the penalty. So what you're saying, because I never dived, and he see me, he gave the penalty. But I think there should be a panel of guys that sort this out for people who dive in the box. It's been going on for years. But it ain't just come in football.
No, of course not.
Because the Europeans have done it. I know players in the 70s and that used to trip themselves.
Is it cheating?
Yes,
Angus,
it is.
Is it cheating?
I think if it's done deliberately, it's got to be cheating.
Is it?
Yeah. If it's done deliberately. I mean, but you can actually sometimes dive to get out of the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, cheating's a very strong word.
Yeah, but if there's I think deliberate is quite. I think it all depends.
Not professionalism, not sportsmanship, not gamesmanship.
I've seen players dive. I've seen players dive because they didn't want to get hurt, right?
Not when he played. Not when I played.
No, but you've seen it. It's an art. But I mean, I think that there are one or two players who take that art a little bit too far.
But cheating, winning a penalty. I mean,
well, I think if you do it deliberately, I mean, I'll never forget one, and he got away with it, and it was a match, and he was a great player, and I didn't get a yellow card for it, but this was in the 80s. I went to an amazing match. It was the Cup Winners' Cup quarter final, and it was an intense atmosphere between Manchester United and Barcelona, right? And United had lost the first leg 2-0, and came back. Brian Robson, you were mentioning, was influential that night. Frank Maradona played. Yeah, and that's the player I'm going to talk about now, Maradona, right? We get to the last minute of the match. Manchester United had turned it round. They were now 3-2 up. The last minute. I'm sitting behind the goal, right? Bernd Schuster, do you remember him? Plays the ball through. Maradona turned and dived. 100% dived. Right? There was no contact whatsoever. The referee turns and he points. Now, I thought penalty he was going to give, but he actually pointed to a goal kick, didn't give it. He looked for that free kick, and the referee, in those days, I mean, we've just seen 20 replays of it now. There were no action replays. In fact, the game wasn't even live on the telly. It was a highlights match later on. But it gave me a view from behind the goal where I was sitting.
But if he wins that penalty,
then Barcelona score and go through.
And they go through. What is wrong with that?
Well,
look, at the end of the day, we all know it's wrong.
Yeah.
But as you said, it is part of the game. And if we're going to allow
Hold on. I've got to stop you there. I've got to stop you there. You're a defender. You telling me you didn't pull someone's shirt?
Never.
Is that you telling me you didn't pull someone down deliberately?
I didn't have to.
Let's accept that this is a problem in sport. Why haven't FIFA, the world governing body, used retrospective punishment?
Because you said they're weak. You've said it all along.
I have said they're weak, but why haven't they? Because that would appear as strong. So why don't they? There's enough TV cameras. I'm not saying you can do it on the day, but you just mentioned there, if you really want to punish it, why not have a red card for a player who's died? Even if he's won that penalty and it's deemed later on by a panel that he's died, why retrospectively?
It'd be an interesting one. If it'd be an interesting one, the first people that decide to introduce that, because I think it would go down two ways, especially if they did it to a big name.
You know what I think's worse? Worse than actually diving and cheating. The worst thing is someone doing that on the halfway line.
That was going to be my next question.
Well, that's a free kick on the halfway line.
Where do you take it? Retrospectively?
So in the box, it's a penalty. So if you give penalties, there'll be more goals in the game because strikers or midfield players, whoever in the box, and they don't get their shot. When they make that great run, they get a header on goal or a shot on goal.
Will we ever see a game that doesn't have diving?
No, that is going to be part of the game now. Full stop.
So it is part of the game.
Yeah, it's not. It don't
Make
make
your mind
it
up,
right.
is it-
It don't make it right.
If you're a manager, would you actively encourage your players to dive?
100% no.
No.
Look at that face. Can you see that face? Say that again. If you're a manager,
100% no. How
No.
could you?
well, I would actively
Yeah, you
encourage my
actually.
players to go down.
Okay, that's the difference between me and you, Jason.
Well, you'd be out of a job.
That's what I was laughing. I'm lucky I'm not in a job.
What about Wayne Rooney goes through last minute of the European Championships in France in 2 years' time,
In the final and gets a penalty.
and his ankles aren't clipped, but he goes down and gets a penalty, and we win it.
Every England fan, by a very few, will be
Would
cheering.
you celebrate? I mean, you're saying you're not condoning it, so I'm assuming you won't celebrate the goal.
I would celebrate the goal.
I'd celebrate the goal.
I'd say, gee, he scored.
Well,
But
this
I
is
wouldn't
the
necessarily be proud.
Well, you know, you don't have to be proud.
Maradona, the hand of God, I played in it.
Yeah.
Remember that game?
Yeah.
I mean, is that cheating?
Well, I think every single England fan, I think tellies were smashed and there was fights in pubs and bars all over England. It was just, because he cheated. But in Argentina, they were cheering.
Of course.
And I think at times, as a nation, we are naive. And I think we need to look at the way that the game is played abroad. And I think we need to the dark arts of football are alive and well.
Well, if that's going to be the case, then every manager, and every international manager, especially England manager, should be saying, I want you to do it and come out and say, if it happens, it happens.
Absolutely agree with it. Absolutely agree with it. In tight games, that can be the difference between winning, losing and drawing. And it may well be the points that secure you Champions League football or stop you from getting relegated. And I think we are naive in this country.
I think I've got to agree that it's part of the game. We've got to accept it. But there's got to be, I think, technology where maybe, I don't know, the FA or the Premier League get 3 or 4 ex-players to see the incident and say what sort of ban he should get. Because I think then, if you get the bans, it will still be part of the game. But I think more players would be against it, and that should be all over Europe.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We can see we've not all agreed on that one. Do you agree with Kenny? Do you agree with Angus? Or do you agree with me? Diving, what are your thoughts on that? Always polarises opinion. You can tweet at Talk2Fanzone, that's the number 2. Or you can email talk@FootballFan.zone to get involved.